The Taste New York Pavilion opens at 12 noon and we'll be there till 5 p.m. Go check it out. Talking Horses is next.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Horses. Good morning as well, presented by Saratoga Springwater. Day 37 here in Saratoga. 10% of the meet is officially left. Sarah Obadwi making her final 2000. You just said it was your last Saratoga Talking Horses appearance. You know something I don't know?
Hopefully not. I mean,
Wondering.
but with all the questions I'm getting about what I'm doing after the meet, it's like I won't be doing any more work.
That's something you stop. You've never. There's a lot of things you don't know about working here in Saratoga is that there are people that don't realize that we race all year round and that we work in New York, and people ask you, and
it continues on.
But that's because they're not aware. But hopefully they're aware now. But anyhow, Andy Beyer will be making his annual closing Saturday appearance here on Talking Horses. He was 9 for 13 last year. There's 12 tomorrow. I told him he'll be 9 for 25 after tomorrow for the 2 years combined. But anyway, it'll be great to have Andy here, and he put on one of the legendary displays of handicapping last year, as he is a legend in this game. We'll also be running the Harvey Pack tomorrow as well, the first run in the Harvey Pack. It used to be the Lucky Coin. Very excited about that as well. And Harvey's such a popular figure here in Saratoga especially, but a good friend of mine as well. And you know, the truth is he's sort of the father of a lot of simulcast stuff, the prattles and things like that, doing his shows and stuff. And I went first time I ever appeared on air with Harvey was 1975. on Marlboro Cup Day. He used to come on Saturdays and Sundays, I believe, and have on guests between the races to talk about the races. And the 70, not 75, 76 Marlboro, I think. I don't think 75.
You shared so many wisdoms of his throughout the time that we've been on air together, just personally as well. And he just seems to have so many great ideas about how to approach the game in general. And it's great that we now have a race named after him. I know largely in part due to you.
You know, thank you. But a lot of people. But thank you. I appreciate that. But Harvey would say he wasn't a handicapper. He just had a lot of funny things to say about the game. And the funny thing about Harvey was, for those of you that knew him, Harvey was a lot funnier off camera than he was on
like
camera.
You?
He's not a guy that, well, I don't nothing to say to that. But Harvey was great fun, and Harvey and I drove back and forth from New York City. He lived near me on the Upper West Side many times at the racetrack, and we always had a good time hearing things and talking about Harvey's life. So it's nice that we'll be remembering a man who had enormous popularity, but more than popularity, importance in racing. And importance for us. Then we're on TV, and you could argue that there's a world in which if Harvey Pack didn't exist, who knows how television and racing would have evolved. We'll get on with the show. We've got 10 to talk about, and a gorgeous day here. Head over to NYRA Bets. You know the drill. No better time than the present. Use the promo code SPA200 and we'll match with $200 of your initial deposit. We have Pick 6 carryover. I think it's $111,629. Starting in race 5 today. There were some tough results. You know, yesterday's last winner, it's funny, I was talking to Steve Chris last night, and he said, I didn't think that last winner was impossible. And I said, I agree. I gave her a long look before tossing her ultimately, but that was a race where I think we were searching for an alternative to Miss Bonnie T, though I copped out with her eventually. And there were races that gave the winner a chance. She's just the kind of horse who shows up a bit haphazardly.
Which is exactly what I said about her after she won that race to someone, because she has those races in there. It's just a little bit random about when you're going to see them, but you got a gigantic price on a horse that did have some form to go off
Even
of in a spot like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
She's run some good races.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the kind of horse, I guess, on a big spread. And it's another case where if you play an ABC method properly and pick fives, you could have had her as a C. The problem was you had to be right in all the other races.
Right,
and it wasn't exactly an easy sequence. Having a few issues over there with your earpiece.
It's okay. Breaks on occasion, but I don't need to hear anything anymore.
We have pick fours, 2, 4, and 7 for today's pick fours and 10 race card. We also have a $25 bonus. You bet 100 or more on today's races at Del Mar and Saratoga. Earn 25, win or lose. Opt in over at NYRA Bets for that. We have the contest. No, we have the $3 million bonus. We've upped the $1 million to 3 on Sunday. $1 million Saturday, $1 million. If by some wild chance nobody hits the pick 5, or you're the only winning ticket in the pick 5, you better play it through NYRA Bets just in case. Another reason to play through NYRA Bets. It may be a long shot, but you wouldn't want to turn down an opportunity for $3 million extra dollars. Also, the Saturday contest, the last one of Saratoga. You have up to 5 o'clock today to sign up for that. $300 buy-in, cash, and seat prizes. NYRA.com/contest. The Taste of New York, where we'll all be heading over and have a few cocktails before the progress during the day. Thursday through Sunday, and that's just this Sunday, about the Gate A the Berkshire Bank Family Zone. And last but not least, 1 to 6:30 on FS2, all the action today from Saratoga. Race number 1 at 5.5 furlongs in the turf. We haven't had an opportunity for too many of these races. You have gone to the 3 Son of a Ship.
I have, and this is a horse that while he's had his fair share of chances, this will be his first time getting onto the grass, and there is a little bit of turf pedigree on the dam side as well. And for all of Mike Maker's sort of average or maybe perhaps lacking in elaboration stats that he has, this one is actually a really positive one, though a small sample size with 2-year-old maidens going dirt to turf in sprints. He's 4 for 11 over the past 5 years, so 36%. A $6.73 ROI bolstered by one big price in there, but another 5 of those have finished in the money. So this is a move
were
that
they
he's
first-time
having
turf,
success with.
or were they
Yes.
First-time turf, not
Yes.
dirt to turf,
Maidens,
first-time turf.
First-time turf going dirt to turf.
Okay, the horses after 2 horses that won on the turf and did run buyers in the 50s. I'm very interested in the 9 Vesture. I feel as though Al Stall's a guy who knows how to win races up here. He won with a big price in the turf sprint, I want to say, last year. He's had live runners, and he's going to win. If he wins a race this closing weekend with one of these firsters, I'm going to make sure I bet on it. And Vesture's the first one that I'll pick. Maybe I'll adjust if this one runs. Been working well, apparently. The Dam was a 2-time winner in the turf. She's produced 2 horses that stunk on the turf. But I'm going to stick with Al, who has done it before in Saratoga and knows how to get a 2-year-old home here. I did want to show the the race for the 7 Seagal, who we both have fourth, because this horse did have a genuine trip last time, and I don't know if it's just the kind of horse that probably ran against a weaker field, but you're going to see the horse drop out. It's going to steady fairly severely right in there and come taken really out of the race, and thought he did do a reasonable running after that. So you take the trouble away, you look at it, maybe he runs in the low 50s. He's still probably not good enough to win, but he did have legit trouble in this race.
And I really did flirt with putting this horse on top because I saw the same sort of significant trouble in this race that you did, but ultimately had the same reservations over the field overall. I do think this is likely a tougher group that he's going to be facing in here, but I think that you'll still get a very fair price on a horse that's been a big price in all of his starts so far. And while the numbers don't necessarily suggest that he moved up on the turf, I think that you have to incorporate the sort of trip this horse got when looking at those Beyer speed figures, because trip aside, maybe he runs second, maybe he runs a higher number, just as you mentioned. I think he does deserve a look in a spot like this.
And this is an outfit that used to be with Juan Vasquez. We've seen them win at big prices in New York at different times. Richie's World Stables, as well as Rafael Romero. So I'm always keeping an eye on them when they're running horses in here. The one reservation I had about the race was the fact that he was closing into a race that was falling apart. I have Sanderson second for Graham Motion. The dam was 1 for 27 on the turf. The second dam a little bit better. She has produced, though, 2 turf winners out of 3 to try it that were okay. You have the Todd Pletcher Irish Gent second.
There's just a lot of precocity with this European pedigree. Sold for a decent amount at Goff's as a yearling, or our equivalent of $479,000. And the dam, she didn't do much, and she hasn't produced much yet, but she is a half-sister to some decent turf sprinters over there. So I thought this horse just made a lot of logical sense, but I get wanting to play against it. What's going to be a shorter price?
Yeah, I just want to get away from the Irad Todd factor in these races, but you're absolutely right. It's not good turf pedigree per se, but it's legitimate turf pedigree, if that makes sense. Race number 2, you have gone to the 2 Perfectly Imperfect, who I believe there was a story about. We wrote a note on this horse, I think. Mary or Ryan did.
There was a Blood Horse article about this horse as well that I read if we did one too. And while a lot of the statistics for both the sire, Sharp Azteca, and Jack Cistern don't necessarily point to ready to go first time out for this horse, there's a little bit of buzz about this one. I thought the works have been decent as well. And this horse, of course, has only one eye, so something to take a look at later on. But there's just enough going here, and with the buzz going on about this horse as far as the workouts and the stories written, and I thought that at a price, this was one that I wanted to take a peek at.
Okay. I picked Dolomite for Chad Brown. The dam was pretty good. Chad trained this horse for Alpha Delta Stable. Sunset Ridge, she ran 89, 99 Beyers. It's her first foal. There's pedigree for this one on the dam side. So I'm going to guess that she's probably a runner in here. I thought the interesting horse was the 5 Carol T. I almost went 5-1 here. She shows that 35-1 workout. And it's interesting. This horse worked lousy work at the 2-year-old sale, but still sold for $95,000, or what I thought was a lousy work at 10 3/5. But this was after a couple of very good runners, including Suerte, who won here at the meet. But also, is it Spieth? Got a 90 Beyer. The dam was better, probably going longer. But I think this is an interesting first-time starter for Jose Jimenez, who horses have run a little bit here. Nothing special. He hasn't run too many. But I thought this horse might be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I just thought that this one ultimately might want to go a little bit further,
Maybe.
but worth taking a look at in here. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, and I always feel like I don't worry about them having those route pedigrees first time out, because if they have some skill, they'll be okay going 6 first time out. The second dam was also very, very good. Race number 3. I'm looking forward to race number 3. One of the reasons is I'm not enamored, and I see you aren't. Well, you've got one of them with the horses out of this Fancy Joke race last time. And I think it's important to show the race and talk about it, because Fancy Joke got into a torrid duel with Silver Fist and actually didn't run that badly in finishing 4th. And his Achilles heel in here was the fact that you knew that he was going to get involved with Silver Fist. I do think that both OK Honey and Security Code took advantage of that. Yes, Security Code had to alter course and maybe didn't get the clearest of trips. The problem, though, as I see it, is Silver Fist going to be as aggressive today? Now, if Javier's as aggressive as he was in winning yesterday's 8th race, and it was a fabulous ride by him, she will be. But Ruben Silveira, you know he's a rider that commits to going. And this is not a criticism of Javi. but you knew he was going to go. Or at least I did, and I think a lot of people probably did too, and that was going to be bad for Fancy Joke. Is it going to happen again? Is history going to repeat itself again in here?
I think that's a fair question to ask, but if it does, don't you want to stay away from both of them?
Well, yeah, of course I do, but I don't know that it's going to, and I do think of all those horses that Fancy Joke is clearly the one you want because she ran the best race in there, and I'm going to guess it won't happen in here. Now, the problem is Irad's not going to let that happen. Wow. It's amazing.
You want to go have fun?
Well, it's fine. I'm glad they're so happy. Anyway, is she going to be effective, though, if Irad rates? You know, and I imagine that he probably expects Javier to go. Is she a horse, even if she doesn't get into that Torrid duel, can she rate effectively?
I don't know. And
Yeah.
I think that's a fair question to ask because I think that both of them have this one way that they've been more successful and it doesn't work out when they match up and they sort of cancel each other out. But who folds? Who decides that they're going to try something different today?
Well, probably Irad because of the way he generally rides. Now, as far as Cali Magic, we'll show the replay. My problem is, yeah, I know she can rate, but her two recent wins were when she was able to set very, very moderate paces. We saw Cupid's Heart get left again in this race this day. And one thing I know, barring something wildly unforeseen, she won't be in front today.
No, she won't be. And you have to go back a little ways to find a race where she is the winner,
She
where
can rate.
she's not on the front end because she has been more successful doing that lately. So I get that kind of concern, but they are there. She's won here in the past, coming from a little bit further off the pace. And so it's nice to at least know that she does have that tactical ability going into a spot like this. She's also been off of freshening for a little bit since June, and Chris Engelhardt does have some pretty stellar numbers coming in off a little bit of a break like this. He's 24%, $1.74 ROI past 5 years, 55% of them finishing in the money. So I do like that at least she can decide where she's going to be today, and I think she could just end up being the best horse in the race.
No, I don't have a major argument with that. My problem is she's a little bit dressed up off recent wins and very favorable circumstances, and she's the 2-1 morning line favorite. So that makes me a little bit, you know, it's like I liked her three back. David, I know, liked her last time, and we both got a little bit lucky, to be honest with you. We both got away, I mean, with Murder on the front end and won those bets. I don't want to take her at 2-1, but
That's
you're right.
fair.
She can rate and get it done. And I'm just committed to a horse like Rebos Valentine. I believe that August 3rd, the rail was dead. And if you think the rail was dead on August 3rd, you want to bet Rebos Valentine in here. Because, first of all, she's not a speed type. And,
No.
I mean, she can stalk quite easily. She's shown speed. In that race, she broke from the inside. Katie had no choice. She basically had to go. And now she's in a perfect stalking spot in here. She's run a fast race before that gives her a chance. And she's going to be a better price. So I'm committed to betting on Rebos Valentine in here.
Yes.
And I had to endure seeing Ray Handel last night. He eats in the
I
same
saw him
place that I
yesterday.
eat in way too often. And, frankly, I hope I don't see him again the whole meet. He's going to worry me out. Even though he hasn't brought us any champagne or pizza to the set
He's only
in quite
got
a while.
couple days left.
You know, I know. It's a little disappointing. That's all right.
Maybe
It's
when
okay.
his horse wins sometime today,
You know,
he'll
it's
be
better
able
when he
to
does it at
bring
Aqueduct,
it back.
actually. He
Yeah.
made an appearance, New Year's Eve. He brought us a bottle of champagne.
Incredible.
We all had a toast in the office.
Well, it's before my time, so he has to do it again.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to consult with Ray about that. Race number 4, the Saranac. And we'll show Carl Spackler winning the Hall of Fame. And I don't think any of us expect him to rate like he did last time. And unless the number 7 Lost Ark goes on a big mission here, and frankly, he's not that fast, and he's not as fast as Carl, he's going to be in front here. I believe that Carl Spackler is a gigantic talent. And winning the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile as a 3-year-old is a tough thing to do. But at some point, whether this year or next year, we're going to see this guy in the biggest of races going miles. I think he's very, very good. I know he spent a lot of time in the rail last time. I know he's a heavy favorite today. I think this guy's the goods.
I do too. I don't have a big argument against him. I feel as though he really benefited when that race was redrawn and he goes from post 10 to post 2 and he gets a nice inside draw again today in a smaller field as well. And I think he really legitimized himself in that race last time out because he had this one performance where he didn't really show up as much in the same way at Churchill Downs and that American Turf, which was a very tough race.
But it has to be a question mark. And he answered last time that it was, for whatever reason, he didn't run that day.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have those off days where you just kind of throw out those performances, and that's not necessarily how I handicap in general, but he's already proven
He's proven
himself
it, right. If he was coming
back.
into this race off of the race at Churchill,
at
I would be
4-5,
with
no
you
thank
trying
you.
to beat him here
But
because I would have a problem and worry about it. But I thought his last, and I know he had a good trip in there, but
what's
he
going to say he
ran
doesn't
like
get a good trip today?
Those
That's
are
the
good.
thing.
Well, he's supposed to get a very good trip here, being forward in here, and I know he's going to be an overwhelming favorite without activist investing. He is going to be 1-2 in here. I think he should be. I'm not trying to beat him. The only wild card is the horse you've picked on top, Lost Ark, and you have a commitment to him because you bet him in the Curlin and you want to lose more on him again today. But Todd has been working him on the turf, and I'm assuming he's worked okay.
And you look at the immediate pedigree and you're wondering what's going on here. Of course, Todd Pletcher's success aside with how he moves these kind of seemingly dirt horses to the turf and
But
has
he's not a
success
dirt
with it.
horse. He's proven he's just not that good.
Well, and if you go to the Grand Dam, she did okay on the turf. She started her career in France running on turf. She broke her maiden here on turf, eventually switching to the dirt and being more effective there. But it's in there somewhere to suggest that he might be able to have some pedigree to handle this surface switch. And he also is a horse that has a really funny action in way of moving. He really kind of paddles. And I remember when he broke his maiden, I was like, he's paddling the Arc himself, getting there to the win. So perhaps with that kind of stranger way of going and maybe the Yosemite pedigree, he is kind of that horse that if you want some sort of alternative to the horse to be,
Well, he's also the unknown.
Kind of only
he's
one.
the unknown. He's going to have to improve significantly because he's an okay dirt horse, but he's not that good. I mean, but Todd is not. I mean, clearly Todd looks at him and he said, well, yeah, I can try to find a non-winners of 3X for him.
Or
we're
try something
probably
else.
not looking to run him for a tag, at least at the point of waiting to see, but he's just okay. So unless he dramatically improves in the dirt, he doesn't really have options of where he can go unless he turns out to be a turf horse. My guess is he's at least worked well enough for Todd. I have no idea. Maybe he's worked great. He's worked well enough, and Todd's taken a shot, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you're absolutely right. He has enough pedigree to handle it. And, I mean, Meadows and March is okay. Taking Candy got a great trip. You kind of missed the boat. I'm going to argue Taking Candy might have got the ride of the meet from Jose last time, and it was because he was aggressive. Yeah, it was an incredible photo if you bet it. But also, Jose did everything to put him in a position,
Sure,
and I'm not
of
saying
course.
Cherie didn't give him the instructions to do that as well. And Yakovlev is not a bad Euro, but I don't know.
He's been facing only okay horses, and that might be good enough coming over here. But
Against Carl Spackler? I don't think so. They were going to
Yeah.
run him in the allowance if that race hadn't rained off on Wednesday's card. Race number 5 starts out the pick 6, a $111,620-something carryover, $29. And at least you'll get to see the board here. But you also know there's a horse locked, and we're going to show the first couple hundred yards of Locke's debut and then the last quarter mile. And this was a very fast race this horse comes out of. Being a gun runner, he's supposed to stretch out. He has experience. He's going to be a heavy favorite to start it
likely
out.
single for many.
And I mean, I guess as we go along and look at the sequence, we can decide if there's a better place to lean on a horse. But
There might not
I mean,
be.
the problem with leaning on a horse like this, first of all, I mean, this horse had legitimate trouble, didn't break, had to steady back out of the race, and really just had terrible position. And it was a very, very fast race. I'm looking forward to seeing Just Steel come back for Wayne Lucas. And BU,
looks
the horse
like
who
the
was
goods.
second as well. I mean, you run an 88 buyer, and you lose first time out.
By a nose.
Yeah,
To a
I don't
horse
care
with
what you lose by.
experience.
You got an
Right.
88 buyer, and you lose a 2-year-old maiden race first time out. That's rough.
Yeah. Oh, no, he ran.
This horse ran, and I mean, listen, you don't know about the first-timers. Maybe there's some firsters near that are really good, but they better be.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with any of that. I think this horse made up a lot of ground. Kind of reminds me of the 2-year-old that ran yesterday for Todd Pletcher,
Yeah.
who had a little bit of
Little
a trip.
slower.
Well, sure, and also a
Slower
filly.
race, too. Easier
Right.
race.
But the same type of dynamics where you see this type of horse have a significant trouble at the beginning and look like maybe without that they would have won this type of race.
Yeah, I would say that horse yesterday, and it continues to be an issue, that horse is very green. I thought the issues with the one yesterday was more that the horse was very green in the race. This horse had
No, he was
trouble that may
professional. He
not
just
have been
didn't
his
break that
own.
well.
Right. He actually ran a professional race, and he's he's also faster. This horse is
Sure.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Drum roll, please. You've taken on top. I'll let you talk about him. He's going to have to move way forward.
He is. Just looking for some sort of alternative to what's going to be a very, very short price favorite and when likely single for many in the sequence because he also does come out of what's been a pretty live race and maybe didn't appreciate the sloppy sealed surface that he got that day and now gets to go a little bit further as well. But we've seen Seize the Great come back and run well. Dornoch came back and ran okay in that stakes race as
Did
well.
either of them improve their figures?
It's a good question.
Yeah, actually, I know. Dornoch improved his figure 5 points.
Seize the Gray did not.
I did not look him up. I know the third place finisher, though, Global Perspective, improved his figure 16 points the next time out,
Yes.
winning in the slop, going a mile. So I think it's a fair point. Listen, I've got him
But
second.
he would have had to not appreciate the sloppy steel surface and move up quite a bit today to get to the
Yeah,
same
the problem
place
is, and I agree.
that
I
Locht
mean,
is.
to me, he's clearly the second best
The alternative.
horse. I mean, I don't know about the firsters, but I mean, Locht is good. And I'm not going to take a big stand against him. You've got Wayne's $1.15 million. I think Wayne may lead the meet.
In 2-year-olds?
No, in 2-year-old, they cost $1 billion or more, right?
I know,
It's like
right?
the second or third we've
He's
seen.
got a lot of very expensive 2-year-olds in the barn, and while they are sort of running better second time out, more so than first time out, this one does have some pedigree too. Have to Caribbean Caper, who's more of a dirt sprinter, of course, but it's in there.
Yeah, I always feel like the mile first time out is a sign they're a little on the slower side to start out. Doesn't mean they can't run well. We'll see what happens. Sarah and I will be back to cover the late pick 5 after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses, presented by our good friends and loyal supporters at Saratoga Spring Water. We truly appreciate their support of Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling. Day 37 with a carryover, and the late pick 5 starts in race number 6. And I guess Focus Pocus, there's one that'll screw up an announcer one of these days,
Frank's
is your
got
top
it. He's
pick and got
fine.
run down by a horse, Caldwell Loves Gold, that came back and ran very well, improving to win the next start here on New York Bred Showcase Day.
Doesn't this horse come out of a very live race in general? And this was one that was forwardly placed early, where the first and third place finishers in this race were both coming from off the pace. Caldwell Loves Gold, just as you mentioned, came back to win. Lady Arwen we saw come back to win very impressively to break her maiden. And I think you could possibly make the argument that maybe this horse ran the best race of the others in here because she was the one that was closest up to a pace that was coming apart in the later stages.
I have no argument with any of that.
Great.
I consider putting the horse on top. I don't disagree. Live race, good performance.
Validated by horses coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very logical horse. I have no argument with it. I picked her third because I was interested in a couple other horses, but I do agree with you. I think she's the horse to beat at the very least in this race. I took a shot with Equinox. I was sorry that Irad's riding, not because I'm sorry that Irad's riding, but he's going to hurt the price, and that's too bad because I thought this horse had some real trouble. I mean, this horse was bumped extremely hard to start, really slammed out of that race and steadied back out of there, really lost all chance, and I thought made a reasonable run into the race. Rob Atras will have his firsters ready to go sometimes out, and I know Rob's had a tough meet, but I thought this horse did some real running first time out and was an interesting alternative.
That's fair.
The 5, Miss Maximus, is one that's a half to virtual reality who ran well here on opening day, didn't come back. She's a Cloud Computing, and this one is a Maximus Mischief, who I believe has been starting out pretty well as a sire. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Had a couple of winners already.
And it's just
I think
Brad
he already
Cox.
had his stakes, his first stakes winner, if I'm not wrong. Yeah,
You
doing
were
well.
probably right. But I thought this was interesting for Brad Cox, a horse that I just thought would be interesting coming up here. Brad has been a little he's been quietly having a good meet with a limited number of starters, I should say. I mean, his horses are running first or second more than half the time. So I'll take him. No argument against Focus Pocus. I just want a slightly different
Sure.
options.
You know what's a little interesting?
Who?
Unicorn Cake. The number 8.
Okay.
Just there's a little bit of pedigree here. Party Like Grandma, the Dam won her first
She won her
2
debut
starts.
here, right?
Yeah. I
For
think-
Jeremiah, I think.
No, Finger Lakes, and then she won here. after
Okay,
that.
she won here.
Yes.
Okay. Jeremiah
she did
trained her,
win
though?
here. Yes. Correct.
Go
bees,
away.
Bees coming to get you.
Go away my hair now. I don't have any hair. Stay away.
They want to take what's left.
Won't be that hard. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I have the horse fourth. I'm always scared of Jeremiah's firsters up here. He's done so well at different times. All right, we'll see what happens in race number 6. The 7th race, kicking off the late pick 4. We'll take a look at Expand the Map. And for what it's worth, there was an incident in the last race, and Irad had said after the race that he really felt she was full run and very likely to win the race, and not happened. And the problem with Expand the Map is she doesn't win. And
Exactly.
it's kind of, it's obvious, I'm stating the obvious, but this is a horse that was touted as a Breeders' Cup filly, Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly turf winner, and she lost her debut to the eventual winner of that race. But she just continued on running infrequently. She's finally at least been sound this year and running, which is a good sign. And to be fair, while the winner of that race we just showed, the Grand Motion horse, was clearly the best horse, she's also pretty good. She came back and ran a respectable race in the Intercontinental the next time out. I'm not against her, but like you, I didn't want to put her on top.
Well, it's just everything that you've mentioned about how she doesn't win that often. And I will say, to her credit, there's a lot of trouble that sometimes isn't her fault in these races.
But,
and,
there's,
but it
but
happens over and over again.
Yeah.
She's always a short price. And so, of course, these are the types of horses that you try to find an alternative to because they're just not getting the job done.
So after missing your opportunity to lose money on Rombeek in a more appropriate race for her, you've not only taken her in a shorter race, but you've taken her when she has an entry mate that's going to take a lot more money than her, therefore giving you a terrible relative price. The good news for you is her entry mate actually has a chance in here.
Well, maybe the price floats up a little bit with the scratch of the Jack Sisterson horse, and of course the presence of two Chad Browns as well.
Well, the price goes down when Jack Sisterson's horse comes out. It doesn't float up, it goes down. That's the other one, first one. But Quarrel is the one they're going to take bet in this race, not, wouldn't you agree? Or at least they'll bet them equally? I mean, you're taking horse. Okay, we'll get. Can we wait on this replay? Can we wait a minute on this replay if you guys don't mind? Thanks. Anyway, go ahead. I just think it's a horrible value concept play.
No, that's fair. I'm against entries just as much as you are, and I get that argument.
Not quite as much.
Okay, sure.
Clearly not quite as much.
Well, I also do feel as though we should be able to bet on which horse we want to bet on.
Yeah,
but
it's disgraceful.
regardless, this is not going to be a favorite entry. We can all agree on that, regardless of what you think of the price in general. Because with her, I made this argument last time, and I'll make it again. She's a horse that has come back and has some races in the past that make her in a competitive in a spot like this, and hasn't quite shown it in her first two starts so far this year. However, I do believe that she's a horse that takes a little bit to race into fitness. She got over a yielding surface first time coming back, didn't run at all. And I feel as though last time out she did at least show a little bit more improvement and show that there was some ability left in there. And perhaps now third off the layoff, she gets back to some of those races that she showed last year, which honestly some of them would make her a player in a spot like this.
No, listen, that's all fine. That's all fine. But I want to address something. It doesn't matter if a horse is 20 to 1 or even money. If it's bad value, it's bad value. If she's supposed to be 20 to 1,
you really
and
think she's supposed to be 20 to 1?
No, I don't.
Just as a relative.
I'm making a point.
Okay.
If she's supposed to be 20 to 1 in a race and she goes off at 12 to 1, it's a big price, but it's still bad value. If you bet horses at 12 to 1 that are going to win roughly 5% of the time, you're going to get buried over time. And that's the problem. It doesn't matter that she may be 5 to 1 in this race and the price is still okay. It still feels like if you cash on her and you get $13, you should have gotten 21. And that's the problem. And I'm not saying that she can't win, because I value your opinion, and maybe you're right. And maybe she does have races better than Quarrel. She does. I think Quarrel has more upside, and I also do not think this horse has run well this year, Rombeek. And I don't think she's more suited to less distance, even though she has, to be fair, run respectably at. I just feel as though the value argument is an important one, because there's been a lot of bad, misleading talk in different times in racing about, oh, it's value because it's 8 to 1. No, value could be 2 to 5.
I'm not going to sit up here and tell you she's going to be some great price today.
Yeah, no, she's not going to be value. That's what she's not going to be. She may be a decent price. She's not going to be value. That's all I'm saying. You know it's a pet peeve of mine. Having said that, the race that I want to show with Root Cause and Quarrel, I thought Quarrel got a poor ride. Yes, was caught wide early, but the fact is that Dillon should have been more aggressive here, a long shot wire of the field. And I thought Root Cause actually ran extremely well in this race, given the dynamics of the race. And I want to give her a shot as a lightly raced horse to take that step forward, because she was badly compromised by a ridiculously slow pace and then a super wide trip.
Okay, that's fine. She's obviously got a lot of upside going for her, and she's also run into some spots that I totally get the argument that she wasn't really given a fair shot to win this race with how the pace played out. And of course, trying my heart out's a horse that they've allowed to do this a couple of times at gigantic prices.
Well, no, when she won her other races, Janet Price, she actually was much the best in there.
Yeah?
Yeah, she beat a heavily favored Chad Brown entry at Aqueduct. But this was crazy, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought part of it was frankly Dylan's fault for being unaggressive. And I think you're going to see Javier be more aggressive, which, to be honest, kind of helps your cause a little bit because at least it creates some pace for your horse. So maybe it will help set it up. I guess it depends what Dear Lady does. If Junior's not aggressive with her, Quarrel could find herself controlling this race on the front end.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, this is a really interesting race because I think that the money is going to go to these two Chad Brown horses. And I get your whole point about how this is not going to be good value on this entry, but at least those other two horses are in here to take some of that.
Right. They probably deservedly are taking money. We'll see what works out for them. Race number 7? 8. 8. Coming up. Race number 8 features a long layoff horse, Forced Ranking. And we'll take a look at him breaking his maiden back in October. And obviously things didn't work out for him. He's been gelded. He gets Lasix. He couldn't run in Lasix as a 2-year-old. I looked this up. 540 plus days. Chad Brown is 3 for 13 with a $1.07 ROI. He is 0 for 2 on the turf, a 5th at 9 to 5, and a 4th at 8 to 1. So not much of a sample size, but mediocre results.
And this is something you mentioned recently as well, that Klarovich hasn't dropped many horses in for a tag to win and be successful here at the meet, and this is one of them.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But what else are you supposed to do with a horse like this?
I think they're probably running this horse where he belongs. And I think a lot of these drop downs, this is not a horse that ran well a month and a half ago in a much better race and is suddenly dropping substantially, where you have to ask the question, are they trying to just win a race or are they really trying to just lose the horse because they feel he's not that good? I think it's probably a combination thereof. He's probably not that good. He's probably found the right spot for him. I don't want to pick him on top. You didn't want to pick him on top, but are either one of us going to be surprised when he wins?
No, of course not, and he absolutely can win. It's just these are the kinds of horses that I don't really have an interest in at short prices because there's so much going against them as far as question marks to contend with. But it certainly could drown this field if given.
I don't know if he can drown this field.
Well,
He's the horse to beat if he runs back. I mean, isn't American law the horse to beat if he runs back to his faster races? I don't know if we can trust them to happen.
Where are they?
Well, where are they? They're 3 and 4 back. He's got races that will crush this field. I mean, running high 80 buyers.
What's happened with the last two?
I didn't pick him. You pick him. We pick him the same spot here. I'm saying to you, he's the horse that if he runs to his good race is going to win.
You know they're in there at least with him,
Right.
but this is a big drop in class for this guy. And his form recently, those last 2 starts, and even the one where he was favored last time, have been relatively unimpressive to say the least.
They're not, but they are much better horses than these, to be
They are,
fair,
yes,
and they
yep.
still run better. And I mean, listen, you're taking a price horse, and that's fine, but I don't, Gun Maestro, once again, the problem with Gun Maestro, and it's not your fault, it's the problem when you like a horse, it's going to be a bit of a price, and you get IRAD. So instead of getting the 8 or 10 to 1, you're going to get 6 to 1. That just kills me. What do you like about him?
I've always really liked this horse on dirt at a level like this, and I was waiting for him to drop into a spot where he could actually be competitive. When he went to Gulfstream for the first time, they tried him on the synthetic. I don't really think that's what he has any interest in doing for the most part. And then when he finally dropped in for a realistic tag on the dirt again, he wanted a huge price. Then they try a couple more experiments on the turf, another try on synthetic. But none of his dirt races since his maiden win have really put him out of the question here in a spot like this, because you don't have the same types of questions with him as you do with some of these drop downs, because he belongs in a spot like this.
That's fair. He does belong in this spot. The problem is he's going to have to hope an awful lot of horses don't show up with even their fair races probably to win. But listen, he's going to be a decent price, and I didn't see him, but that doesn't mean he can't win in here. I mean, I went very logical here. I didn't do anything clever in this race. I used the first 3 choices as my picks in here. I prefer the One Morning Cup. Getting off the turf. I'm not exactly sure why Linda decided to take a shot in the turf. This is a horse that ran well before that. She's had success with these claims from Churchill, and she's got another quill in her armor to take a shot at. Now, Linda, who's still one behind Chad Brown, she missed a couple opportunities yesterday, particularly, right, to tie Chad or get ahead.
I don't think either of them won a race yesterday, right?
No,
yeah.
Chad's been on a tough run the last week and a half
Lots
here.
of
It's
seconds.
hard. It happens to every trainer throughout it. It's happened a bit to Linda too, but it is interesting with 4 days left that they are neck and neck for the battle. I just felt this horse getting back to the dirt would be on the appropriate surface, and I'll take a shot he wakes up for Linda. I did not have a clever idea. You went a little off the reservation. I hope you have a clever idea that works out in here. We'll see what happens. Mine would have been maybe to try to get the 10 run Smitty run in, but gosh, he was just so bad last time.
Yeah.
Maybe fight fiercely, but I was 1-2-8 really. Race number 9 I thought was an interesting race, and if you're somebody who likes horses that I don't like, take Sarah's second choice, the 8 Disarmed, and we'll show his last race. This is a horse.
I feel like he's your Swiss Summer.
Well, no. But this is a different story because he got extraordinarily lucky to win 2 back, setting a very slow pace on the rail, and the horses that came back out of that race to do well were compromised by his good trip. This one's even more incredible. Not only did he get a very good trip, he was going to lose.
He was.
The number 7 City Mischief was going by him. And this was that same day when it happened, I think, earlier with Graham Motion's horse. He bobbles right there.
Yeah.
He was going by this horse. He was going to win the race, and that happened.
He lost his footing, and that's very reasonable.
Yeah, and it's like...
And City Mischief's also a better horse.
Well, but the point is, there's an argument Disarmed should be coming in this race off 2 losses, and he comes off 2 wins, and people love wins. So he's a horse that if he wins, I'm going to lose here.
I've tried this logic with him on a couple of occasions. He just keeps running well even when he's not winning. And his last 4 starts, honestly, even one of them being on the dirt and an off the turf race, he's been ultra consistent. Whether you like him or not, and I get not wanting to take him at a short price, he's been running in each of those spots. Whether he's been fortunate enough to do so, he's still there.
Okay. I think he's dressed up with absolutely nowhere to go.
Okay.
But we can agree to disagree. Talk about your pick, Icy Flavor.
This one coming back as a 3-year-old now for the first time and won both of his
4-year-old.
4-year-old, sorry, thank you. But he won both of his turf starts when he was on that surface. He's still very lightly raced. He comes in from California, and this one's actually a half to Not Far Now, who is that turf horse who is very, very fast
John
early.
Kimmel trained the dam, Kibosh. She probably rode her at some time. There's plenty of turf on the dam side.
I think just maybe taking another step forward now as a 4-year-old. Thanks for the correction. This one could be dangerous, and I think that he's just shown that he can really handle this kind of sprint surface and gets a nice inside draw as well.
Okay. I feel as though that this is a race that's going to feature some pace. And while some of it depends on Disco Dino and how much he shows, but it's also got St. Selby in here. And that's one of the reasons I don't like Disarmed. I know the pace was quick last time. I don't like Icy Flavor. I'm a little scared for horses that are going to be forward. And if I want somebody forward, I want St. Selby. And I don't disagree. Winner's Laugh ran well last time. Definitely ran well. But now he's got to deal with a speed like St. Selby, who is fast, and he's coming in off a win. And when he's in form, he's good, and he was good last time. They knew, too. He got bet. He was smashed in the pick 3, was it, the big crazy
so.
low?
Yeah.
But look at his turf race. He tried to go 7 furlongs in his first turf race. And, yeah, I know the paces aren't as fast in those races, but he still ran actually a pretty quick pace that day. And
Not Far Now was in there, in fact.
I'm not sure this guy can't sprint in the turf. And I think of the speeds, I just feel like he's in here and he's going to make it difficult for horses that are forwardly placed.
Sure.
He may not win, but I think he's going to
a player.
compromise them. And but I think he's a horse that can affect the running of the race, whether he ends up being a player or not.
I'm with you.
And that's my problem. And the 2 horses that I have alternatives that I bookended him with are King Moon Racer and Vacation Dance. King Moon Racer, this win, he got an absolutely incredible ride from Flavien Prat, who not only got position from the outside, but he got him up close, but he absolutely smashed the field. And he had a ridiculous trip behind Disarmed, where I thought he ran better than Disarmed that day. And last time out, he was wide, but he also did sit a reasonable trip at Monmouth. But I thought the race was fair. He's going to have to run back to this race to get it done. But he runs this race, and I think he's going to win.
He's in great form right now, and I don't think there's any denying that. And I think you can make the excuse that you did for his race last time. It worries me just a little bit that he has yet to have a win at this distance or at Saratoga, because he's going to be one of the shorter price type of players in a spot like this. And I wonder if he just appreciates getting a little bit more ground to work with and the more of the Belmont
got a yielding
course
turf that day,
configuration.
too, so that could be a factor. I think Vacation Dance is dangerous in here as well. I mean, he was setting, after they foolishly rated him, they'd go last time. That race ended up collapsing last time. At the end of the day, isn't he just cutting back to the more appropriate distance?
Yeah, no, I really like him getting back to the 5.5 furlongs. He broke his maiden at the distance. It was actually over Disarmed, if you go way back in the time machine. He has those good races on the turf in general that I think do make him a player in a spot like this. And I also think maybe you could argue a little bit that he's been facing some pretty tough company as well.
Yeah, and just been. I think he's in the right spot in this race at the end of the day, and he can get a little pace and get a good trip. It's a fun race, race number 9. It's nice to be able to
my
finally.
favorite on the card.
Yeah, maybe nice to finally get to be able to run some turf races around here and see them. Race number 10. It becomes a bit of a question of drop downs and where you go in there, and how you feel about them. Mayfield Strong, who you have on top, is dropping down in this race. Brooklyn Diamonds claim for 30, dropping down in this race. Inspector claim for a quarter, dropping down. Excess Demand not really dropping quarter. Deputy Connect off those mediocre races dropping down. Justice Department, you can forget his turf race. He just didn't handle the grass. He's dropping down in here as well. He doesn't have to trust him. Chad Brown, over the last 5 years in dirt non-maiden races, first time for a tag in Saratoga, he's 8 for 16 with 13 hitting the board. I am going to trust in Justice Department dropping, and I'm going to stick to the horses that have run the best races recently. And you know what? At the end of the day, he's running an optional claimer, $16,000 optional claimer at Monmouth. This is where he belongs. I don't see this as a monstrous drop down. He's not worth the $230,000 they paid for him. And I think him and Deputy Connect, they're sort of running where they belong.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't disagree with you at all. They're just both going to be shorter prices, but they can both absolutely win this race. And this is just a very logical spot for both of them to end up in because, honestly, they've been running over their heads considerably.
Well, they're just, no, well, I mean, Justice Department didn't finish 4-2 back, but they're just running where they belong. I don't, I don't know, maybe. Anyway, Mayfield Strong, make your case.
I just don't feel as though he's really been in a dirt spot where he could be competitive, and a spot like this ends up making some sense for him. I don't really, I get why they stayed on the turf after he did have the win on that surface, but I mean, if you look back to who he faced as a 2-year-old, he ran against Damon's Mound and Confidence Game, then next time on the dirt he runs into Echo again, and I just don't really feel as though he's had the opportunity to be in a type of spot where he could be successful, and really feel as though he's just going to be a slightly better price than the other dropping down.
Yeah, I hear you. My worry is his race 2 back.
It was not good.
Yeah, that's my problem, and I totally hear you on those 2 races. He faced, obviously, considered Confidence Game. Your favorite horse was running. I hope he comes back one of these days. He is a good horse. You're right about him. I just wish he didn't have that race, and I had looked at him a lot.
If you take that away, he makes a lot more sense.
That's the problem.
And he's more appealing.
Right.
I get it.
It's one of those horses you could say he had no chance in his dirt races. Well, he had a chance that day, and he ran just as badly there
I will
as
say
he
that
did in
was
the
for
other
50.
races.
Now this is 16.
Right,
so
but he still ran the same 53
Sure.
buyer with an easy trip in there and just didn't run well. That's what worried me about him. Listen, I'm going to use Brooklyn Diamonds a little bit. Linda Rice, I'm not leaving her out. And I guess SS Demand, who is the speed, is not impossible. I thought the track evened out quite a bit yesterday. We saw it was a funny day where we saw a dichotomy of races. We saw horses either make big runs or that we saw the speed holding up. There wasn't like a lot of middle ground there.
Right, and I think maybe early on you maybe thought that, oh, okay, maybe the rail is a little bit better, but I think that was mitigated as the day went on, and it did look like a very fair racetrack, all things considered.
Yeah, I don't even think the track was necessarily changing as much as it was.
People's
it just was
opinions
different.
were.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, after a day like Wednesday, if you're not worrying that we're going to have a big, was
You're not
such a
paying attention,
pronounced speed
sure.
bias, you always have to have that in your mind. And I think with the 2 to 5 shot closing in the second race, you don't want to say, well, it's back to fair after we saw the speed do
Yes.
so well in the first race.
course.
Anyway, Sarah, it's been a pleasure. We will see you back in New York, of course, when we all head back down to, if you're wondering what Sarah's doing after here, the same thing the rest of us are doing. Well, not the rest of us. The rest of us, Greg, Maggie, Acacia, the Mig and I, we're all heading back to Belmont at the Big A for sure, are going to be our home for quite a while.
Yes.
And
yep.
the nice thing about the Big A is that we're
Everybody's
all close
so
together.
close
Well,
together.
we see each other all day
Yes,
long.
exactly.
I mean,
We never
here,
see each other around
Yeah,
here.
here in Belmont, you don't see people unless, frankly, we're working together.
Right.
Whereas at Aqueduct, we're all within feet of each other. And that goes for a lot of people who work at NYRA. You see
Yeah.
people you work with that you just don't get to see, and
It's a
I
nice
like
little
that.
close-knit community.
Little camaraderie. It wears out, though, by month number 6, at least for people having to see me. But thank you, Sarah. It was a terrific job all summer.
Thank you.
Appreciate it a great deal. And it was nice being here with you, and I could actually hear you, and you could hear me.
I know, right?
Head over to NYRA Bets. We're not a member. No better time than the present. Use the promo code SPOT200, and we will match for $200 of your initial deposit. Pick 6 carryover, $111,629. Starts in race 5. We have pick 4s in races 2, 4, and 7 on today's 10-race card, 11-race, 12-race card tomorrow. Starting at 12:40. I think post time is 12:40 after today for the rest of the meet.
Yes,
Don't
it
get here
is.
late. Going to be gorgeous weather just like it is today. Going to warm up a little bit, actually. What else do we have? $25 bonus. Bet $100 or more each. Saratoga and Del Mar opt in, and you will get $25 bonus. Pacific Classic Day tomorrow, I believe, at Del Mar.
Good field.
Interesting race. Yeah, interesting race.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
I don't know if we'll see any Flightline-esque performances, but
Probably
competitive
not.
race.
Probably not. I like to say we don't see any Formal Gold. We were talking about Formal Gold at dinner the other night. You ever take a good close look at his lifetime PPs?
No, but I'll have
You
to.
should look at them. David Aragon's put them up a few times, but also it's not just the amazing races he ran. It's the schedule that he kept. He ran in the Dawn. He beat Skipaway. This is a 4-year-old. This is after running in grade ones in like his 4th career start. And running
At
the
least
Breeders'
I'm
Cup
old enough
Classic.
to remember when it was called the Dawn.
Yeah, well, we still consider the Dawn. And it's not a flying bird. And then he went to California and ran in the Santa Anita Handicap. And then he went to Dubai and ran the Dubai World Cup. And I believe he came back and ran the Mass Cap. And then he was running 126 Buyers in the last 3 races of his career.
Pretty incredible.
I'd like to have seen what he could have done if he ran once every 3 months. I'm not knocking Flightline. He was a tremendous horse. But I don't want to hear that he was better than Formal Gold because he wasn't. What else do we have? $3 million bonus. We've upped it. Sunday, Saturday $1 million, Sunday $3 million. Both reasons to play the late Big Five through NYRABets. NYRABets.com/million. We have Saturday contest. The last one. You have until 5 o'clock today. Go to NYRA.com/contest. $300 buy-in cash and seat prizes. Head on over, have a couple of pops. Go to the Taste of New York Pavilion. It's a fun time. Thursdays through Sunday, located near Gate A. And the Berkshire Bank Family Zone. We have those family fun days over there on Sundays. Last but not least, 1 to 6:30 on FS2. All the action today as we are in September here at Saratoga. Sarah, thanks again. Thanks to all of you for watching as well. Frank Miramati, the voice of Saratoga. He's up next, the reprise, the scratch and changes. Enjoy the last Friday of the Saratoga meet.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.